Alex, this is gonna be for you. I'm just trying to do this. I know you're saying it's kind of hard to do this virtually, but I'm going to try my best to kind of walk you through both the quizzes a little bit. I'm not going to do everything, but I'll try and walk you through how these things work via the quizzes, as you can see on the screen, and then I'll jump over to the Go Formative. So what we have to do and what you have to do is try and work with whatever's for this week and then kind of work backwards to try and regain some of your points for this class. So I'm willing to kind of work with you a little bit, but you have to meet me halfway. I know this isn't ideal. It's not ideal for me. It's not ideal for you, but we gotta kind of zip up our man suit and our woman suit, and we got to get our stuff done. Okay. So, and I think you can understand that. So that way we can get back on track here. So for this quizzes, and you know how they are, they're multiple choice. Usually the answers get shuffled and the questions get shuffled. This is how it kind of will look though. So these things kind of are, if you're given something, a certain number, then you plug in a specific number to wherever it'll match. So the way that it is worded in the quizzes is slightly different than how it will be worded on the Go Formative, but it works the same exact way. So when you see this question, what is f of 6 or what is f of -3, that 6 and that -3 is your x, okay? So whatever that number is in the parentheses, that is your x. And so 6. And then you're going to go to these if statements and see where does it land. The number 6 lands between right here, 5 and 7. And make sure you pay attention to, let me zoom in here. Make sure you pay attention to the bars underneath an inequality symbol. That means it includes that number. So x can be between 5 and it can be between 7. So here's where that 6 lies. So if there's a 6, then we're going to use this equation and we're going to ignore everything else. We're not going to mess with this 3x plus 5. We're not going to mess with the 4. We're not going to mess with this one. This is where we're going to plug the 6 in, and we're just going to evaluate. Evaluate means to solve. Plug and chug, okay? And it does say here, use PEMDAS. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. If you see that hint, that means you got to do parentheses first. So if I have a 6 here, I'm going to do 6 minus 5. 6 minus 5, 1. 1 times 2 is 2. 2 plus 2 is 4. So you would select whichever answer, and remember they're going to be shuffled. The answer will be 4 in this case. So you would just select 4, move on. Okay, we'll try one more, and remember they're going to be shuffled, so it's not going to necessarily be the first or the second question you're going to get, but at least you'll see this one eventually. So here you have a -3. So it turns out -3 is included here. Okay, so -3 will get plugged in right here. Well, actually, right here. If -3 is between here, and we're going to say this one works. For whatever reason, I think there was an error. There shouldn't have been underlined here. So this is an example where we don't need any PEMDAS or any plugins, because this option is just saying that is what it'll be. It's the number 4. There's no plugging in. So you would select 4 and you would move on. So same idea when you get to the Go Formative. So when you go to Go Formative, I saw that you had logged in, and I saw you didn't attempt anything. You're probably just trying to look it over, but kind of stopped or froze or whatever the case might be. That's fine. And so it's going to take a few seconds for this to load. So just give it a minute. I have kind of crappy internet sometimes too. Oops. Crap. Sorry. You're not supposed to see all that. But okay, so I saw you logged in. This is now us previewing you as a student. I'm going to zoom in so you can see everything. So the question basically from the directions is saying, what will be the answer if x was -2, and that's where the 1 comes in. But then it also asks, what about x equaling 1 and x equaling 5? That's where the 2 and 3 come in. So it's like basically these always will change. So instead of it saying what is f of -2, now the question is asking you -2. X is -2. So here, -2 is less than or equal to 0. So that means your answer can only be this, the 8. There's no plugging in anything, there's no doing any math. The answer is simply just going to be 8. But that changes when I jump over to 5, for example. Okay, so for 3, the answer is you're just plugging in the 5, but you got to make sure it works. So here, x is greater than 5. That won't work because there's no line underneath. So that means we have to plug into this one because there's a line underneath here. That means our number, the whatever we're plugging in, counts, and it includes this 5. So I'm going to put a 5 here. So you've got 5 squared is 25, but because there's a negative in front, your answer should be a -25. All right. I'm going to jump down just so you can see a little bit different. So the directions change slightly each time. You're going to reuse these two numbers for each plugin, for each problem. So 7, you're going to plug in a -3 wherever it works. So in this case, this is a perfect one. X is less than 4, -3 is less than 4. So your final answer can only be this 10. There's no plugin, no math, nothing. Okay, just you're going to have a 10. That's called a constant. But like here on number 4, for example, these have different options because you have the option to plug in your x. So we'll do 9 real quick, okay? So here's -3. -3 is less than 0. So because the -3 is less than 0, I'm going to ignore everything else except for this 3 times -3 minus 1. I don't do anything with the 2x squared, won't do anything with the 1 minus x for number 9. So I've got 3 times -3, that's a -9. Take away 1, that gets it to be a -10. And all this while, as you're entering in these numbers, as you enter in your answers, so we said number 1, the answer was 8. For number 3, we said the answer was going to be -25. You just, as you submit them, it is going to give you a grade at the end. If you didn't get 100%, I have the opportunity to go back, check and see where you might have gone wrong, and I will leave you feedback on the Go Formative. It's just your job to go back on and check that, and then you can still fix things as I've always let you do in class. So the whole idea that, yes, we're doing school from home for both of us, it's still going to be the same operation that I'm going to let you fix things as long as you get them done and in a reasonable time. But you got to have some kind of grade in versus a 0, okay? So hopefully this helps. I know it's, again, not ideal, and if you need me to do more, I will do more, but I need you to at least try something. So try the quizzes. You're allowed 2 attempts, and try the Go Formative, and then we'll talk about maybe going backwards to the absolute value stuff. The absolute value stuff was actually pretty easy. It shouldn't take you too long. I'll consider reopening the quizzes for you at some point. But we need to get you at least started with this stuff because this stuff is a little bit less time consuming on my end and your end, and we just got to get some points in the grade book for you. Okay, so again, email me with questions. Make sure you are watching these and not just skipping through and saying, oh, I didn't understand or didn't listen to your video, just because it's a video. Okay, you have to give it a shot. All right, thanks. Bye.